All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Ask Me Anything, where we do these public bi-monthly sessions to talk about some hot topics, some policies, some programs, and learn a little bit more about what the impact is that they have on families. So recently we did do a HomeFront Help. It's a new pilot program that OCC project is running. We did a HomeFront Help Ask Me Anything from the perspective of a helper. And so now that our cohort has gone through, we are doing another one from the perspective of a family. So what does this mean for families? Just a reminder as to why we did choose the Eglin-Hurlburt area for this pilot is, well, it's multifaceted, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that you are so geographically separated. We had a lot of families coming into case management saying, we live in Crestview and I need to drive all the way down to Hurlburt's or Eglin, or occasionally I need to go to Pensacola for an event or for care or for whatever it might be. And there was this gap. There was this very glaring gap. So that is why we predominantly decided to start with this area. And as a result, we are fortunate enough to have Jenny Kane here now. Say hi, Jenny.
Hi, everybody.
So Jenny is our program manager for HomeFront Help there in the local area. She is also a military spouse who just got to the area. And I think that she has started unpacking boxes.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that's something that we all do. Okay, so let's dive in. A little bit about what HomeFront Help is. So it is a professional development opportunity. We designed this as a win-win-win for families, for the helpers, and for the community. As part of this, in case you were not here for the initial, our helpers applied to participate in this cohort. These are the individuals who were already serving families in the local community. And in connection with our partners, we were able to give these helpers stipends for their time to complete these extra steps in training, which Jenny is going to dive into here soon, really elevating their status as a trusted caregiver for the benefit of this community. So once all those helpers did complete those steps of the HomeFront Help program, they are now able to show potential families their additional training, the certifications they've gotten, and their background checks. Families who are in need of emergency care, so less than 24 hours, they're able to call our hotline. We call it the helpline, like it's a little play on words, and speak to our team about sending out emergency requests to our helpers. The families, as part of this, are still responsible for the cost of their care, and that is set by helpers. That is something we're going to dive into here soon in our frequently asked questions about this program. And as I go through this, if you do have any other questions about the program, feel free to drop them in the comments and we'll get to them as we go. One major one is related to how much does it cost? And of course, thankfully, because of OCC projects reach nationwide into resources, if families cannot afford a helper, you're able to go through our case management team as well to help you navigate what that fee assistance process would look like. Families in our pilot area that are not in need of emergency care, but they are seeking a helper, can find our helpers in a lot of places. So it's not just through us. They are, as I said, they're already members of your community. So you can find them in your local sitter sites, which I know the Eglin-Hurlburt area, I think you guys have like 9 different Facebook groups for providers. It's so many. Yeah. So you can find them there. You can verify their participation by looking at our website. And I will pop up that link here shortly. Families are also able to submit a request for a helper through our case management. So here, just in case you do not remember what our case management link is, it's here. HomeFront Help is also about data collection. So it's not just, yes, we want to provide this additional training to people. We want quality care, safe care to be available to families, but we also want the data. We want to know what is the true cost of a trusted caregiver and what is the difference between a family choosing a trusted caregiver or choosing someone because they didn't have any other choice. How do we get them to choose quality? And that really starts by making it available. Now we can see what makes it accessible. So as we review the stats of, who uses who uses a trusted caregiver model? Who does that apply to? We see two things. So the first is that families who are more likely to use a trusted caregiver typically fall in one of four categories. And this is whether you're military or not. So DoD, civilian, it doesn't matter. Those four categories are: you have a child with a disability, you live in a rural area, you are working, and I'm very much looking at you guys in this one, non-traditional or shifting hours, or you need infant or toddler care. So that's the first thing that the data demonstrates are more likely to use a trusted caregiver, all four of which are reflected within our military community, and especially when we get into those rural areas, our recruiter community, our reserve community. And then the second thing that the data shows, and what we're really trying to examine here, is that any family who has to rely on more than one type of care, so families who maybe do have access to the CDC or do have access to one of our military fee assistance programs, if they need to use more than one, 92% of the time, the second care option is a trusted caregiver. And we call them helpers in this instance. So that is what we're really trying to get at with this data. So we did the cohort, have the helpers, and so now we're in tracking mode. Now we want to know, what does it cost? What does it look like? And what may need to be adjusted? So that is the kind of, for my data nerds, exciting, but a little bit of a boring background for the other people who are like, just tell me how to get a helper. So in that case, I am going to toss this over to Jenny now.
Awesome. So what we did was we went out into the community and we took applications from local trusted caregivers. Some of those might be military spouses. Some of them were veteran spouses. And a lot of them were community members that just wanted to be part of the team and help out. Of those 50 plus applications, we interviewed and took on 18 to 20-ish helpers into our cohort. And then we took them and upskilled them. We gave them level 2 background checks. We started with Department of Children and Families courses and CPR. So you see in this slide here, it says prior to the cohort. It's a little heavy on the front end. We wanted to make sure that we got them as well trained as we could before we got into the cohort weekend. So they did 40 hours of courses, including special needs, including safety and nutrition. And they also did the CPR course, which was an online CBT-based course, and it's hybrid. So the first part is online, and they have to complete that before we get to the weekend. And then in the weekend, during the cohort, we did in-person learning and skills checks for CPR, that is adult and infant. While we brought them in for this 2 days, we paid them to be there. We value their time. And they had the opportunity to do networking, professional development, meeting with community members. We had DCF come in. We had some of our other community members come talk to them about military family lifestyle, about social media, about how to present your trusted caregiver ads so that people can see them, understand it, and give virtual trust, if you will. After the cohort, we completed the background checks, made sure they all came back successfully, made sure all the paperwork was crossed and T's are crossed and I's are dotted. And then they get a little bit of extra stuff with that. They get some consulting with industry experts. They get some work with us. Here's my ad. Jenny, what do you think? Here, I saw this. Do you think this would work? They work closely with me as the project manager. I'm in the local area. And from there, we get to start bringing in families to either through our helpline or throughout the community with the helpers.
Jenny, did you already say what was the stat? What did it end up being as far as how many were military affiliated?
Ooh, I want to say it's 6, 7 of that team. So that's about half-ish, a little under half.
Were military of the helpers?
Oh, those are active duty military. Oh,
I was like, I thought it was bigger than that.
No, I think it's almost all of them. I think there are 2 or 3
really close.
In any way affiliated.
Yeah,
that means like a dependent, or maybe outside of a dependent role, so grandpa or aunt or along those things. So many of these helpers are very familiar with the military lifestyle and how to support military in the way that they need with non-traditional care.
Yeah, they've really been touched. Someone had been touched by some aspect of affiliation with the military community. Our team here internally is saying 15 out of our 20 were military affiliated. So it's about 75%, which I think really goes to show how much our community does value this and how important this is to them. This is something that we hear all the time when we talk about this program. And I'm sure Jenny, having been, now that she's there in that local area and getting to talk to families more one-on-one, is families saying, I wish this existed for me. I wish I had this when I had small children. And our community really gives back. And that's really, I think that's pretty incredible. Okay, let's see what's next here. Oh, so this one is that I'm going to take this one. So what is not part of this cohort? You know, one of the feedback points that we get frequently is that what we're doing here is innovative. It's not, and I don't think it's super innovative. I've seen people do things similarly. I think what's different here is that these helpers, when they go through this, they don't work for us. We don't get anything from this other than the data and the ability to demonstrate what an impact it has. And so what I want to do now is talk very briefly about what is not part of this cohort, what is not included. And the first thing that is not included is background checks for other states. So yes, we do have the Florida level 2 fingerprint background checks, includes the FBI background checks, the National Sex Offender Registry check, but we do not go through every state that this person has ever lived in, every state that this helper has ever lived in. Most of them have lived here for a long time, but as we already said, a lot of them are military affiliated, meaning that they have likely moved here in the last 3 to 5 years. The reason why it's important, and this is part of some work that we do with families when it comes to looking at state background checks, is that not everything that happens at a state level gets to trickle up to where it will register at a national level. So while we did do the FBI check, it may not catch every little thing. We did the Florida check, it may not catch every little thing. So this is part of what we kind of train families on. We were looking at a safer method for families, a safer way to move forward, because we know that military families, we don't have communities where we relocate. I mean, you find your community. Every Facebook group that you will see out there is people finding their community, asking who likes this, who can I meet up with? But in that meantime, we're very heavily relying on social media and things like social media. And so what we wanted to do was say, you can't, when you ask for a sitter through social media, a trusted caregiver through social media, you can't say, hey, go get your fingerprints done, consult with the FBI before you come over. And so we're really just trying to do, another level of security for families so they feel a little more peace. The second thing that this cohort is not, is licensing. It's not licensed. Some of them may end up being licensed at the end, but that is not what our cohort was. So while they have completed training, both online and in person, that was offered, through the Department of Children and Families in Florida, it does not mean they are licensed. They are not licensed providers per se from this cohort exactly. The goal here was to give them additional education to better serve families. They can use the training that they have gotten towards licensure. It's just not something that this program was. The third, and I can see where this would be tricky, because we are a nonprofit that serves military families. We're doing a pilot program specifically targeted at military families with a target demographic and helpers of military families, but it is not a DoD sponsored program. It is not a DoD affiliated program. The goal in this, again, was not to create early childhood educators, but rather see what happens if families who do not have alternative options are offered this option of a safe, qualified caregiver. That being said, if you are a family, because this is an area where the Child Care in Your Home pilot program is launched, that is a DoD program. So if you are a family who's interested in that, or maybe you have applied to that, then the helpers who have gone through this program would only have a few more steps that they would need to do in order to be eligible to participate in that. So just something to keep in mind if you are interested in that. It doesn't inherently say that they are automatically qualified to do the CCYH program. There'll still be a few additional steps they need to do, but a lot of that legwork has been done. And the last piece, which I'll touch on a little bit here in the frequently asked questions, is the employment piece. So we are not their employers. This was a training opportunity for them, a professional development opportunity, a networking opportunity for them, which we are incredibly grateful to have taken part in, but we are not their employers. This is about data for us at this point moving forward. And so a little bit about a few reoccurring frequently asked questions that we've gotten since we did get this launched out. So the first is related to background checks. How do the helpers how can you go see the background checks of helpers? And the reality of this is that you cannot. So the helpers are volunteers. They are assisting us with data gathering. And when I say data gathering, I don't mean, they're going into your home and they're writing down information about your family and your children's names and ages. We are very top line. So, did they connect with the family through social media? Did they disclose that they have a regular care? And then you are just there for, which you would pretty much know if you're just there for a date night or if you are there to fill a gap in regular care. So I don't want anyone thinking as I'm saying we collect data that someone's taking photos of your home and relaying that information. Like, we are looking at very top line information of what kind of an impact does this make and what's the best way to make sure that we get this message out. So anyway, back to the point. The helpers are our volunteers. They assist us with data gathering. We share their background checks with them. It is up to them to share them with you. So in the state of Florida, these checks are run, so they have a system and they run it through daily at night. So if we are notified that a helper no longer meets the background check requirements of our program, then we remove them from the cohort. You would know this by going on our website. We can't notify a bunch of families. We can't publicly disclose that someone is not part of the cohort, so we're not going to make announcements on social media. We would just remove them from our website. So this is all part of the intake process. If you are going to use a helper, we'll explain a lot of these pieces, but we cannot give you the background checks. You can request it from your helper, though. You can ask your helper if that's what makes you feel comfortable. You can say, "Can I please see a copy of your background check?" The next question. Earlier, I mentioned that the helpers are not our employees. The helpers are able to set their own rates. We do not influence it. We don't require it. Some of our helpers have even said they don't want to be paid, that they just want to step in and help families where needed. Some are using this work as a trusted caregiver to fulfill their income requirements, their income needs. We are not part of that process. They do, as Jenny said, have access to industry experts. We are covering the cost of consulting so that they can ask some of those more tricky situations on what do they charge, how do they charge, where are they able to flex. But we are not a part of that process. So if you are in our pilot area, so that's that whole area around Eglin, Hurlburt, you get your Crestview, that whole section there, and you need a helper, but you cannot afford one, that is when we ask that you come and complete our helper family request so that we can work with you in our case management and with our team and with our partners to see if we can get you financial assistance for safe care. What we don't want is finances being the barrier between you accessing safe care or not. So please come in, but we do not control what they charge. The next is, because we don't control what they're charged and they're not our employees, we don't handle payroll and we don't assist with taxes. So if you do end up getting a helper, maybe a full-time helper, we cannot give you any tax information about that. We do partner with an organization who gives free tax consultations to families who have questions about maybe the tax implications of hiring a trusted caregiver. And whether or not they do need to pay taxes. So we can submit a referral for anyone who has those kind of questions when they come in through our case management. It's something we already do for families who come in through case management. So it would just be another step of free resources for families. And the liability agreement. And I also feel like, Jenny, did I already mention that we don't charge anything to families or helpers?
You can always say it again. We do not charge families. And so this is free. We're privately funded. And so this is free to families.
Mhm.
Always good to say that again.
True. Yes. So we charge nothing as part of this. So, and we never have. Families who come through our case management, everything that we do is free for them, always and forever will be. All assistance is free. Calling our helpline is free. Going through our HomeFront helpers is free. You would have to pay whatever the helper opts to charge. But again, we don't want finances being the barrier between you and safe care. And so the last piece that I want to touch on is just the liability agreement. So when families come in through our case management to access a helper through us, there is a liability agreement that we have them sign. This is it's for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But it basically states that you understand we've completed the checks and training that we say we have, and we have not completed anything we haven't said we completed. So we've only done what we say we have done, and we haven't gone beyond that. It also explains that we do not match families and helpers. And Jenny can talk about kind of what that process looks like. We can't do that because they're not our employees. So we can't tell a helper, hey, you have to go help this Smith family, or you have to go help this Jones family. Families, as they come in, are educated on things that they need to consider liability-wise as well. They get a worksheet of things they need to consider safety and liability-wise with any trusted caregiver. It's not just our helpers. This is anybody that you have watching your children. There are always going to be liabilities and risks, and we want to give you all the information you need to mitigate those to the best of your ability. And I think the liability agreement also discusses how we can't guarantee the availability of a helper. Again, they're not our employees, so we can't make them available. These are all people who entered willingly. They did a lot of work, as you can see from what Jenny put up. These are not people who came in just to ghost later. These are people who really want to help, and they are standing by waiting. So any other questions that you guys have, pop them in the chat. In the meantime, I'm going to move over here and give it to Jenny to really talk you guys through what does this look like.
How does it work? How does it work? It's important to understand how it works. It seems maybe confusing when you look at this. You're like, oh no, there's a bunch of categories, but I promise it's not. You're either coming from inside or you're coming from outside. If you're coming from inside, that means that you maybe came through case management, or you came through looking for a helper with fees. So you see these three categories here. It's families who entered through case management. That would mean you went to our website and you said, I'm looking for help with this, and this. And we went, oh, you're in the Eglin Hurlburt area and you need a helper. Let's pull you through to the helper program. You can also go in and submit that you'd like to connect with helpers. You can go in and say you'd like to connect with helpers, but you need some fee assistance. All of those things can come in through. You can also email me. Sometimes that's how families are going to come through. They might come from the local community partners. They might come from some other places in the area. But when they work through our system, that's how we're considering it in OCC project. Outside means that you found them on the Hurlburt sitters page, or one of the many sitter locations on social media in the local area. Helpers will be advertising themselves. They will probably let you know they're helpers. It's wonderful that they are out there, and we want to support them. If you're unsure, you can go to our website and we have their first names and last initials listed there. If you're really unsure, please reach out to me and I can confirm or deny based on our list of cohort members. We want to make sure that you feel safe and we feel safe with who they are, and we're very clear on who is officially a helper. And as they come through from the outside, then we can decide how does that fall with taking care of our helpers and taking care of the data, because not everyone's going to come through us. Some of them even now have families that they're supporting right now that have been as a result of the training that they've had. So if you're one of those people out there and you get a survey from them, please fill that out. We would love to get a little bit more data. Data on family programs is really hard to come by, and data makes the world go round. So as we look at what this looks like and how do we have safer options, some of these surveys are really important. So we really appreciate if you fill them out.
Yes. And then this is kind of a reiteration, a little bit of a reiteration of what we already hit. So I'll only stay here a second, but this is what the process looks like when you come from within OCCP. So you're going to start at our assistance form regardless. Well, unless you're coming through the emergency piece, but that's something, Jenny will touch on that in a second. But if you are coming through our case management, our regular intake, you're going to have these options. So as you start your form, as you fill out your name, you're going to get to decide whether you need a helper only. So you just need someone to step in. You don't need financial assistance. You need a helper and financial assistance. You have a trusted caregiver, so you don't need a helper, but maybe you can't afford them anymore. Maybe it's gotten too expensive, or maybe you haven't even budgeted for that yet. Or do you need a helper in the short term and also case management? So what we're hearing a lot of, which is it's really common, is a lack of, infant spots. So maybe you do have an infant spot. It's just not available till your child's a toddler. And in the meantime, you need someone to help bridge that gap. So all of those start at this exact same space. And then Jenny, talk about the helpline real quick.
So in addition to this, in the future, I need this, we have the, do you need help within 24 hours? 24 hours is really hot. Here you see it when you see it on Facebook, right? My husband's deployed and I have to go to the ER. Can anybody help me? And then you're subject to whoever responds, whether they're safe or not. We are looking to make a safer option. We have a helpline. You can see it here. It's 850-203-3787. That will come to me. And it will roll to Kayla if I don't answer. And from there, we can take this information from you and push it out to our helpers who are signed up for emergency childcare options. I can't guarantee you that I have one for you because they're not our employees. But again, they're here and they've signed up to be a part of our team. And so we have these options available for us. What else?
Here, why don't you talk a little bit about, because I can see this being confusing. When do you use the helpline?
When you call when there is an emergency, physical emergency, medical care, like that last minute, my sitter fell through and I have a doctor's appointment and I can't bring my kids, that would be considered emergency. A mental health crisis, please always consider that an emergency. And then also, this is really important here, mission-related emergency. Consider I'm out of town and my husband's got the kids and something happens at work and he needs to go in and now we don't have anyone to watch the children. That would be a mission-related emergency. Our goal is to serve military families, and in this local area with the tempo and the type of work that they do, it is really important that we include that in our understanding of what an emergency is. Do not call if it is for date night. We love you. We want you to have date night. That is maybe a mental health crisis in your world. We do appreciate that. But that is not a 24-hour call the emergency helpline. That maybe send an email, or there are some other options you could do to get to us. That is not the hotline that we're waiting for emergent. If you need help drafting your ad, your request, if you need help finding care for regular use, all of those things, please, we would love to reach out to you, just not through the helpline.
Yeah, absolutely. I know one thing that we see a lot of, going back to that necessary appointment care, is postpartum mothers or even pregnant mothers who have other children that they can't take with them to appointments, and they have childcare lined up. We hear this a lot from families, and they say, well, my neighbor was going to watch my child, but now they can't, and I don't know anyone else. Or maybe I had a temporary slot and now it's gone. So what am I supposed to do? I need to go to this 20-week scan. I need to go to this, consultation in order to be approved for an epidural, like whatever it might be. The point is that there is necessary appointment care that would fall under the category of an emergency, because it is vital to your health, or, the health of your children, whatever it might be. It is vital. And I don't want those things to kind of go to the wayside, because that is a gap that our military families face a lot.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we are through our slideshow here. Again, I know that, let me actually, I don't see any questions in the chat right now. Jenny, are you hearing any common questions, or what are you hearing? Are you hearing anything from the community that we should touch on before we?
Yeah. I mean, really what I'm hearing from the community is, gosh, I wish this was here 20 years ago. And you hear that time and time again, was this is something we so very much need in our community. And I think everyone needs it, not just us. So as we look to how successful this program is, what does that expansion look like in the future? And how can we replicate this in other places?
Yeah, I hear that a lot too. I wish people say, 25 years ago when I was in, I wish I had this. And I was like, I was in elementary school, so I'm sorry.
I mean, people get out. I mean, that's really the reality, is that if you can't take care of your family and you're dual military, something has to give, because your family is so important. And so many people get out for that. And honestly, disproportionately women take that role.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So I know that most of you do not watch this live because it's the weekend and you have children and you have things that you need to do. It's why it's at this time for me every other week, because it's my children's nap time. So for those of you who do not spend your children's nap time watching this live and you're going to be watching it later, feel free to drop any questions that you have into any of the chat boxes. This is going to be recorded and released on Facebook, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. We do go through those questions and we do answer them after the fact. If you are a family, or you can reach out to our inbox, to the HomeFront Help FL at, is it up here?
Yeah, you can go back, I think, a slide or two, and you'll see it on there. There we go, right there.
Yeah, so you can reach out to any questions. You can reach out to the HomeFront Help Florida at occproject.org. That is what that inbox is for, to cycle those questions in. And I'll also drop these things in the chat. If you're a family who needs help supporting or help or support navigating this program, you can come into our case management. As always, we'd love to talk through it with you. You will see the case management close on December 23rd. What that means is that it's just on pause until we get back from the break, but HomeFront Help is still going to be cycling during that time. So if you come in and you choose that HomeFront Help, you will still get assistance during the holiday break. And again, as always, this presentation will be available in the education section of our website. All the videos will be available, as well as any links that we have referenced here. So thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you, Jenny, for time on your Saturday when you still have boxes. I apologize. And we will see you all in 2 weeks. Have a happy holiday.
Look forward to it.
Bye.